Mario Party is one of my favorite series of all time, but unfortunately, Super Mario Party is one of my least favorite entries in that series. I won't go into why in this video, but initially when I saw that this new Mario Party, subtitled Jamboree, kept the Super name, I was, well, super disappointed. But I'm gonna be honest, when I deeply dove into this trailer for this analysis, there are certain parts of this game where my hype level is off the charts. I genuinely think this could be one of the best Mario Parties ever, which is crazy to say, because I've been so critical of recent Mario Party, but I'm really just that confident in what I've found here. Obviously, Nintendo is saying it's the biggest and boldest Mario Party ever, and it has 110 minigames, most in the series, all that, but I'm talking about stuff that they didn't point out, and stuff that I haven't seen anyone else point out either. In this video, I'm pretty sure I've found brand new characters that no one has pointed out, and no, I'm not talking about Ninja, he's very obvious. So don't comment, people already know about Ninja. I'm talking about Boom Boom and Lakitu. Yeah, that's right, we'll get to it. I'm also pretty sure I've pieced together how most of the online works, and I'll explain how a bunch of different side modes that actually seem to be pretty fleshed out, and some fundamental changes to the core gameplay loop that Super Mario Party introduced, some that bring the game back to its roots in a good way, and some that look to push it forward in a new way, which again is something I didn't think I'd be able to say. I'm so excited about this, so strap in. Here is everything you missed in the Super Mario Party Jamboree announcement trailer. Alright, so let's start off with the literal first shot, and we're not going to be going shot by shot because there's a lot of shots here that just don't really have anything interesting to talk about. However, this first shot is not one of them. This first shot really tells us so much. So let's start off with this island archipelago thing, which will very likely be the game's main menu slash hub system. Since this is a sequel to Super Mario Party, which did have a full world hub that you could walk around, talk to NPCs, and go up to the individual game modes represented by these big screens, rather than just picking them from a menu like, say, Mario Party Superstars, which again had a 3D hub aesthetic, but you just use the analog stick to choose something, as if it was no different from a vertical menu. It's likely this game will have the full hub that Super had too, or at least some semblance of it, again, just considering that they kept the Super moniker. This isn't Mario Party Jamboree, it's Super Mario Party Jamboree, a sequel to Super. So first things first, let's pause right here. Before Kamek flies in and welcomes us to the Mario Party, which is likely this game's opening cutscene, we can already discern a lot from these islands right here. First things first, this giant island on the right, which we get a better view of in this shot, represents this game's 7 boards. Those being Mecha Wiggler's Tree Party right here, Roll'em Raceway right here, Goomba Lagoon right here off to the side, Rainbow Galleria, the mall board, which I have a lot of stuff to say about later on in this video right here. King Bowser's Keep will be inside this giant cavern. As you can see, Dry Bones working on top of it, and the level itself appears to be in a cave with lava. And then the 2 returning boards, Mario's Rainbow Castle up here in the clouds to the left, and Western Land in the desert off to the right. There is a broken down boat on the beach here, but this probably means nothing, as it appears you get to this place, and presumably every other major island, by this hot air balloon right here. Okay, so this section of the map represents the main Mario Party game mode, and then you have this Star Island in the middle. This seems to be the main settings island. First of all, you have this terminal right here, which could very easily be a Hall of Fame slash stats area or an online leaderboard, given that it has a golden crown on the top. And while you can't make out anything else, this purple fixture here seems to have a music note on top of it, so it very well might be a sound test area. And this house with the green roof just gives off settings house vibes, so I wouldn't be surprised if this is how you adjust the game's main settings. But that's enough of that. Next, let's get to these 2 buildings off to the side. Again, we get a better shot of them here, while the one on the left just kind of has a generic factory look. The one on the right has giant speakers, and the building itself is a pot with cooking iconography, including a chef's hat, fork, and knife in the front. So what are these? Gonna keep this part brief because we don't know a ton about these, but this cooking themed building is definitely a collection of cooking themed rhythm minigames. There was an entire rhythm game side mode in the original Super Mario Party, and we see footage of one of these games later on, plus the box art includes frying pans with music notes coming off them. This other building we don't know. My hunch is that it's all motion controlled minigames, but let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. But this next part is so sick. We have these flying islands here. These blocky floating islands are clearly related to this shot right here. Originally I thought this could maybe just be a minigame, but no, this is its full own game mode. First of all, there's no such thing as a 3-player minigame. There's 1v3s, but this isn't that. And obviously the lighthouse, volcano, and floating blocky nature of these islands are exactly what we see when we get gameplay of whatever this mode is. The hot air balloon probably takes you to this island here with the one building, and that's how you start this game mode. And during the game, it's unclear exactly who you're controlling, as Peach is sitting in a basket, but the basket is being flown by Mario and Luigi with wings. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that this is a co-op game mode, so you would be playing as Mario while your friend would be playing as Luigi, and I'll get into why I think that in a second. second. But first, you can see these arrows that are pointing either to this island or on top of the lighthouse. We can't really tell. There's a Goomba stack on the ground here, and it also appears there's one on top of this volcano. Does that mean you'll be able to run around on the ground? Again, we just don't know. But what I do want to point out is that these wings are being worn by Luigi in this game's box art. So clearly this is a pretty big mode because they're advertising it on the box of the game. Now again, what is it? No one can say for sure. We just simply don't have enough information, but you're clearly exploring an open area, which does somewhat remind me of City Trial from Kirby's Air Ride, which is one of my favorite modes in any Nintendo game ever. However, City Trial was more of a competition, and this seems to be cooperative because we see no glimpse of any other characters besides Mario, Luigi, and Peach here. We don't see any computer players or scoreboard here, so I would assume this is co-op, which would make it be like River Survival. River Survival was a game mode in Super Mario Party. Again, this game is a sequel to that. It was the first ever fully cooperative game mode in Mario Party where all 4 players worked together. Basically, you were paddling down a river in a raft, and you would have to paddle the rafts into balloons, which would take you to 4-player cooperative minigames. The better you do on the minigame, the more time you get, the likelier you are to complete the river challenge. Now, unfortunately, while great on paper, River Survival is completely terrible. One of the main problems with Super Mario Party was there were a bunch of different modes, but no variety within those modes. I am praying that this game does not fall victim to the same trap. Super Mario Party had so few cooperative minigames, I think there were only 9 or 10, that you would often repeat the same minigames within one River Survival race. Keep in mind, each round of River Survival is like 10 minutes maximum, and you're repeating minigames within that time frame. If you want to play it 2 times in a row, forget about it. You're about to be just playing the same like 9 or 10 minigames over and over and over again. What makes me excited about this though is since it clearly looks like you can at least play this with only 2 players, being Mario and Luigi, maybe there is a way to get 4 players involved here and have 4 players flying this thing around. If there are minigames in this mode, which I would assume there are, having only 2 players would allow them to put in 2v2 minigames and just make you go against a computer, and however bad you beat the computer is how much time you get, or whatever, you know, the score points are in this mode. Now, if I do think that you're only controlling Mario and Luigi, what is Peach doing here? Honestly, I think this could be some sort of rescue mission where different other characters maybe being held hostage by different bosses. Maybe it's just Bowser over and over again, the Koopalings, I don't know. But you have to fly to different areas, win some sort of minigame or challenge to collect the character, and that would explain what the arrows are pointing you towards. Again, this is just me spitballing here. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below, but this just looks really interesting. It's kind of like an open world Mario Party mode. I don't know, it just looks cool. All right, going back to the initial shot that we've been basing everything off of, if we rewind the shot with the hot air balloons here, you can see this island with a wind turbine and it appears coins on it. Now, I'm just gonna be honest, we don't see what this island is. Initially, I thought it was this island because they are similar shapes and maybe the coins were just on top of the hill that we can't see because it's cut off, but the lack of a wind turbine or a shadow for the wind turbine makes me think that's not the case. But regardless, let's take a look at this because this right here is by far the most interesting shot of this entire trailer. I thought this was just a nothing shot at first because I hadn't seen anyone talk about it, but there is a lot of stuff hidden here. First of all, there's this boat leaving off to the side. Don't know if this means anything, but whatever. Figured I'd mention it. But what is this island for? I would assume this is Minigame Island, where you can play a bunch of different minigames. Again, this is standard affair, not really surprising. Why do I think this? Well, my assumption is because you can see this dock over here has 4 different vehicles, signifying you'd be going to play free-for-all minigames where it's everyone for themselves. And then this green dock here has 2 vehicles, which each have 2 handlebars, making this perfect for 2v2. Why the other docks don't have any vehicles, I have no idea. Is that maybe just for the trailer? Again, I don't know. But theoretically, one of those would be 1v3 minigames, and one of them would maybe be coin battle. Additionally, there's this Roman architecture style pillar that's clearly an entrance into the mountain of the island itself, but it's locked at this time. It'll definitely be an unlockable mode. This is not just a side decoration. I mean, clearly this leads to something. And now let's get into the most important part of this shot, and arguably the coolest part of this entire video. This is the shot I was talking about in the intro that potentially reveals brand new characters we don't see anywhere else. Bear with me here because this is about to get really pixelated, but stick with me here. If we zoom all the way in, it's clear that there are 4 characters here, with each one standing in front of a dock. However, who are these characters? Well, this one here is clearly Lakitu. You can tell because, well, it's just Lakitu, and he's also floating, hovering above the ground, which is noticeable by his shadow. Lakitu does not appear anywhere else in this trailer. He's not in charge of the shop anymore, and you don't even see him as a background NPC. Over here, initially I thought this was Bowser, but fellow Switch Stop member PJ pointed out that this is actually Boom Boom. You can see the top of his orange head and his red shell, and also just look at his arm. The way he's waving it and just how big his arm is, this is clearly not Bowser. Bowser has small little T-Rex arms, whereas Boom Boom has huge arms and actually uses them as his attack and like waves them around and gets gets super mad in like 3D World and stuff. There are two other characters here. One is so hidden by this tree you really can't tell, and the other looks like a Koopa Troopa, but the red shell version of Koopa, which is weird because we only see the green shell version in every other shot. Could that mean there are different like alternative costumes? I don't know, probably not. That's a bit of a stretch, but I don't think it's a stretch to say that this is Boom Boom and this is Lakitu, because that's just who they are. They also don't really make sense to be NPCs in this context, so I'm really excited about this. Let me know down in the comments below though if you agree that these guys clearly look to be playable. All right, let's get to the next mode here, which is the Koopathalon. This is the massive online mode, but it's not the only online mode, which again we'll get to in a second. But basically the Koopathalon takes place in this city, which we see here on the menu. Ignore the giant Bowser statue, we'll talk about that in a sec, but do take note of the city itself along with the cannon on top of it, because we're going to talk about those in just a second. Now, what is the Koopathalon? Basically 20 players are all playing minigames at the same time. The better you do in said minigame, the more coins you get. One coin is representative of one board space, and the first to complete 5 laps wins. This is honestly a great way to have a massive multiplayer mode in Mario Party, as having 20 players in the actual main mode, it would just be way too boring waiting for your turn. So I love this. I think this is a great idea, and there looks to be some additional strategy too, as there's this symbol which increases every time you get coins. What does this cube mean? I have no idea, but when you fill up the gauge, I'm sure it gives you some sort of special attack that you can use on other players, kind of like how in say Tetris 99, if you fill up that gauge, get a bunch of Tetrises, you'll shoot over blocks to other players to try and stop them. Similar mechanic here, I'm sure. And also, once the presumably minute-long timer runs out, everyone gets a quick break and an overview of the map where they're able to see who's in first, where everyone is, the current rankings, and everything like that before you launch into the next set of minigames. Now let's talk about this Bowser statue, which is indicative of some unnamed Bowser mode. First of all, Bowser's statue is surrounded by a purple fog, and while Bowser is playable here, he's often seen as an NPC in different minigames and on different boards as well, such as King Bowser's Keep, and anytime he's seen not as the player character, he's shrouded in this purple glow with Kamek's magic symbols coming off him. Kamek obviously being the host of this game, they'll definitely try and work this into the game's story. Anyway, first thing I want to mention is these real-time minigames, which do allow 20 people to play together in one minigame. Here you can see Bowser is sprinting towards the screen, so you gotta outrun him. Obviously, again, he has that purple glow we just talked about, and basically you just gotta survive here. Now, this shot here is super interesting. I could very well see this being the final battle of this mode. Basically, after a couple of different Bowser minigames, everyone who's survived those minigames, which in this case seems to be only 6 people, are placed into a different version of the city from Koopathalon. I'm pretty sure it's supposed to be the same city, but obviously it's different. It doesn't have like the board spaces. It's a completely different layout. And this seems to be super interesting. Basically, what's happening here is Bowser is probably destroying the city, and you guys need to run around, collect these bombs, and then run over to the cannon. Remember, I did tell you that cannon was going to be important, and shoot the bombs at Bowser. While you're running around the city, make sure to collect any coins and supply drops you see, although it looks like the supply drops are just going to be dropping a bunch of the bombs, as seen with the bomb icon on the crate, while avoiding the Typhoo enemies that blow your character out of the way. This mode looks like it could be really fun. Okay, so that covers all the main modes we see. I've described them all for the best of my ability, and for the ones we don't know much about, I think I've put forward a pretty solid guess. But now let's talk about arguably the most important part of the game, the boards themselves. I'm not going to go into each board, point out every single event space I see or stuff like that. That's just kind of pointless. Instead, I'm going to talk about the game design philosophies of said boards, because that was one of the worst parts of Super Mario Party in my opinion. The boards were terrible. They all felt very similar. Obviously, I'm not talking graphically. They all looked different, but they all played very similar, and that comes down to how they were laid out and the lack of interesting gimmicks, and I'm ecstatic to say that that doesn't seem to be the case here. First, let's take a look at Mega Wiggler's Tree Party. This is one giant circle with a couple of branching paths, with the main gimmick being you can hop on the Wiggler using these leaf platforms and hop off at the other ones which have the arrow pointing off. For King Bowser's Keep, this board looks sick. Not only is Bowser in the middle, obviously there's probably going to be some event space which if you land on, Bowser will just kill you or take your stars, but also there seem to be a lot of points of interest at the top of this map. And I would also like to point out right here, there is a pipe which would seemingly take you back to the start. As you can see, a pipe at the start as well, and there's no other way to get back to this starting section, as both of these platforms or lifts have arrows pointing that the only way forward is, well, forward. You can't backtrack. For Roll'em Raceway, I think this map is sick. It's slightly annoying that it's a missed opportunity to have some Mario Kart references here. I mean, I don't really understand how you do a racing track and not have the Mario characters in Mario Karts, but whatever. Gameplay wise, hopefully this one feels a lot different simply because it's a racetrack. Sure, there are a couple parts where there's branching paths, but in general, everyone is going to be on the exact same pathway. And also, this track is huge. In a couple of the clips we see, it's like 47 spaces to the star, which is one of the higher space to the star counts you really ever see in Mario Party, but that is made up enough proof by the fact that everyone was in a car, and you can also get a special 4 dice block item, which we've never seen before in the Mario Party franchise. The highest before this has always been 3, so that's pretty cool. Goomba Lagoon sadly looks pretty generic. Not visually. Visually it looks sick. The fact that you go on like some shipwrecks here is really neat, but I'm getting flashbacks to Super Mario Party here, as in that game every single board was just one big circle comprised of like 4 or 5 smaller circles. This looks to be similar, except it is a way larger board. The thing that scares me the most about this is that the tide will rise, and it looks like when the tide rises you will be stranded on each individual island for maybe a turn, or hopefully not a couple turns. I hate when Mario Party does this. ND Cube seems to love this idea of having something happen, whether it's a sand bridge falling out in Super Mario Party or the tide rising here. They love being able to just strand you, confining you to a small subsection of the board. That's just not fun when it comes to Mario Party. I really don't like that they keep pushing this gimmick, but who knows, maybe when we see it in action it won't be as bad. One interesting thing here though is quite simply just how many event spaces there are. There are a decent amount of them here, which is always fun to see, and hopefully these golden Goombas make the game a lot more interesting. Rainbow Galleria is this mall level, which from a design standpoint is sick. The layout also looks really good too. Unfortunately, the one slight problem I have with this is it does kind of look like the least interesting board in terms of the actual spaces. There's not that many event spaces here, at least that we can see. And while again, the layout looks awesome, the different floors is a nice touch. The central elevator and one-way escalators will make movement dynamic. Again, this looks really fun. I just want to make sure that there's enough happening within this crazy looking mall to keep players entertained. I hope they don't lean too hard on this whole flash sale gimmick that drops the price of stars in half. I'm just hoping there are other mall themed events that'll appear here, because if it's just, oh, stars are half off, that doesn't really maximize the mall gimmick. When it comes to Mario's Rainbow Castle and Western Land, these are your pretty standard affair. I love that they're bringing back retro boards. That needs to continue going forwards, as they should take a page out of Mario Kart's book and you get some new, some old. However, why are we only getting N64 stuff? Mario Party Superstars was entirely comprised of the N64 Mario Parties. And then for this new game, the only 2 retro boards you bring in are also N64 Mario Party boards. It's a little weird. Low-key, it wouldn't surprise me if those were originally developed as DLC for Mario Party Superstars, but then they just pushed them back and added them to this. I don't know, it's a little odd, but 7 total boards is way better than any other ND Cube Mario Party game, so I'm all here for it. In terms of the roster, it's a big roster with 21 100% confirmed characters, being the 20 we see here, 12 on top, 8 on the bottom, and Ninji, who's confirmed to be playable because we see him getting a star. However, the fact that Ninji doesn't appear in this scene here does confirm that there's at least one hidden slash unlockable character, being Ninji. I don't think the only hidden slash unlockable character in this game would be revealed in its announcement trailer. Again, we see Boom Boom and Lakitu, as I mentioned before, so maybe they're in the roster. I think so, but I mean, Nintendo obviously hasn't confirmed it. But we are working on a video going over 50, yes, 50 characters we'd love to see added to this game on top of this already massive roster. So make sure to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out on that. And also, if you're just wondering, the characters that have appeared in other Mario Party games before this as playable but don't appear in this one include Diddy Kong, Dry Bones, Hammer Bros, Blooper, Kamek, and Pom Pom. Kamek appears to be the host of this game, so I doubt they'll be playable, but everyone else I think is completely fair game. And that does it for the roster. Now let's get into the last thing we gotta talk about, which is the main game balance. Basically, this is just stuff about the game that I noticed that does massively affect gameplay but didn't really fit into any other section. The stars in this game appear to cost 20 coins. Ironically, the only time we see someone purchasing a star is for 10 coins, but that's also when they're talking about how the stars are half price at the mall sometimes, which would make them 20 coins normally. Thank God. That was Super Mario Party's most annoying part. It would have been so easy for them to change this in an update, or at least give us a setting to change it. But in Super Mario Party, stars were way too cheap, so the economy of that game was busted. Everyone got coins for minigames. Everyone had way too many coins, so minigames ended up not really mattering, and all that mattered was just getting lucky on your dice rolls and getting to the star. Hopefully the economy is way more balanced in this game, as that was Super Mario Party's biggest flaw in my opinion. Lastly, I just want to mention that on the Nintendo of Europe website for this game, they do state that the motion controlled minigames appear to be optional and also will be not available online. That is because they only work with Joy-Con, and Pro controllers are supported for this game, which is huge because Super Mario Party you had to play with just one Joy-Con. The fact that I can use my Pro controller or some third-party controllers hopefully for this would be really nice. I'm super looking forward to that. With that out of the way, hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. I cannot wait to get my hands on this game. We got a bunch more content about not only Super Mario Party Jamboree, but Mario and Luigi Brothership, and all sorts of stuff about that big direct. So hit that subscribe button if you enjoy Nintendo Switch content. It really means a lot. Thank you. I'm Thomas on the Switch Stop signing off. Peace.